Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we go up to the middle of independence. We go after all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything. And you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on. It's going to be fun.
All right, guys. Today's date, June the 7th, 2023, and this is How the Frack We Got Here. I'm host and most Will Buchanan on How the Frack We Got Here. We do take the events of the week and try to make sense of it all. Before we get started, guys, let you know that we are a news podcast. We do try to give you the most up-to-date news from the most reputable sources, and we try to do so with as little as offensive language as humanly possible, but words do fly. At the same time, there may be things that might be shown that might be too intense for younger viewers, so viewer discretion is advised. Aside from that, welcome. So, how do we really start this? Well, not really a lot of ways we can start this. Except the fact that if you're in New York right now, or any of the southern states that are close to our Canadian border, you might be slightly concerned.
All right, let's talk about now just the dangerous air quality that we are watching for millions of Americans now. 13 states under alert as smoke from hundreds of wildfires in Canada spread across the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic. Just look at this live picture out of New York. It's stunning. I mean, they're suffering from some of the worst air pollution in the world right now. Those wildfires in Canada causing this, scorching an area larger than the state of Vermont. Our meteorologist, Samara Theodora, been tracking it all for us throughout the day. Those pictures are just wild, Samara. And I'm curious if you've experienced it as well coming into work today.
Kira, do you smell it in the building right now? Because
my coworkers tell me they do smell it, and it's causing them to cough, actually.
Yeah, it's almost as if that smell of the smoke is permeating through the ventilation systems, and I'm seeing that a lot on social media. So we're going to be in this for the long haul as we head through today and tomorrow. And this is another visual live shot of New York City. It should be blue. Blue skies are what we called for in the forecast today. So those are no clouds that you're looking at. That is all smoke, and you can see that on this satellite imagery here. Up here to the north, we have clouds. We have clouds down towards Virginia, but where New York City sits in New Jersey, this is all wildfire smoke, and that has led to some extremely dangerous polluted air quality alerts issued from Burlington, Vermont into Syracuse, down to D.C., the Carolinas, out towards the Ohio Valley. Detroit, even today, saw some of the worst air quality around the world. So they ranked really high. So what's going on? I wanted to lay this out for you. We call this a stagnant pattern. We call it a omega block. It kind of looks like that Greek letter there. So we've been in the stagnant pattern for quite some time now. This area of high pressure sitting over the middle portions of the country allows for warm air to be funneled high up into Canada. So they've had a lot of heat up there. As a result, that really amplifies the fueling needed for wildfires. What we need is this pattern to change and get unstuck. Okay. So let's go ahead and take a look right now at all the wildfires burning and how this pattern is pushing that smoke down farther south. This is the forecast. This shows you where the smoke is moving and when. Wednesday this afternoon, we already see the worst of it moving into the city right now, so it's going to get a little worse. That near surface smoke makes it as far south as Atlanta through tonight into tomorrow. It doesn't look like we have any relief on Thursday. We're not going to catch a break from this stuff until the end of the week. Here's a look quickly at what we're anticipating, not until Sunday, where we start to see that southerly flow instead of that northerly flow. And then finally, we get this cold front driving through on the periphery, rain, which will really help to remedy the situation. Kira?
All right, we'll keep.
Yeesh. As I said, to all my friends in the northern New York, upper northeast area, definitely be careful, because nothing screams more of a danger than when you look up on a teleprompter and you see Canada is on fire. Wildfires, unfortunately, it is that type of season. We expected it ourselves here in the U.S., especially in our more forest-filled states, I should say. So hopefully, not only you guys in the Northeast area, but hopefully you guys across the border or in Canada, hopefully you guys are staying safe, you're staying hydrated. Please wear a filtration mask. Stay safe is all I'm hoping everyone is doing right now, because Canada on fire. Never a good thing. But moving right along, guys, I did want to start with this first news because you guys got to remember that the U.S. Government has decided that Medicare can now negotiate drug prices. Now, I sat there and said this for now going on 2 years in this podcast, that the problem with American healthcare is that it's for profit. That's the problem. Most drug manufacturers, health insurance companies, they all depend on the fact that they control the pricing in order to actually make profit for themselves. The thing that I don't understand is that finally it's seen, but now it's a problem for drug companies. What am I getting at? I'm actually getting at this right here. Merck, which is a pharmaceutical company here in the U.S., is suing the U.S. government over their new medication drug negotiation program. The reason why? They're saying, quote unquote, by forcing Merck to provide its drug products at government set prices, the program takes property for public use without just compensation in violation of the Fifth Amendment. Their complaint argues the law violates the First Amendment by requiring manufacturers to convey that they agree to the Human Health Services fair prices, conscripting companies to legitimize government extortion is the sort of periodic orthodoxy that the First Amendment compelled speech doctrine forbids. Here's what I find so funny. Why is it, and I say this all the time, why is it when it comes to the fact that when it comes to drug companies, the first thing is to say, hey, we don't like the fact that you are forcing us to actually be a little bit more cost effective to our patrons, if you will. We like the fact that we could charge $45 to $55 and up a pill. And even if you think about it, let's take all the other stuff off the board. It's the life-saving medication for insulin, for diabetes, heart medication for those that have heart disease, heart palpitations, cardiac arrest, things of that nature. Inhalers for those that have asthma, severe bronchitis, life-saving medication and procedures that these companies made billions off of are now, along with Merck, and Merck's just the first one, trust me, it won't be the last one, are now complaining that now they are forced to go against government pricing and want to sue, saying it's a violation of the First Amendment. Is it a reach? Absolutely. Because for a lot of these drug companies, they took government funding to actually find, manufacture, and produce said medicine that is being used by Americans. And here's my thing. If you are taking government funding in order to design, manufacture, distribute, and make a profit off said medication or pharmaceuticals that you're now selling to the public, and you took government funding for it, well, you can't complain. At the same time, why is that whenever these things are government funded that most of this medication is not made free to the public? I mean, as a taxpayer, we did pay in the research of these things getting done. You would think on the other end, we should be getting our money's worth. That's why I said I don't feel bad for healthcare companies, because again, the U.S. for the longest time was a closed drug market. It was. Companies like Merck and Pfizer and other places could really set the prices on whatever drugs they want. That's why Martin Shkreli sits in a jail now, because he jacked up the price on life-saving medication by almost over 500%. And the thing about it was, he didn't go to jail for that. He went to jail for SEC violations. Not forgetting the fact that the most humane thing he could have done was lower the price, but instead he jacked it up for profit. But that's not why he went to jail under. So what am I getting at here? Merck is just the tip of the iceberg. As more pharmaceutical companies are going to realize that their profits are going to dry up, which is exactly what's going to happen. Under government set pricing, their profits are not going to be sky high anymore. They're going to drop. Because let's be honest, healthcare companies don't care about their paying constituents. They actually care about the shareholders that they pay out to. And those payouts are about to get smaller, and hence why they're suing. But also another thing we want to bring up is Jackson, Mississippi. I know, a city and state we haven't said in a while. Just off the simple fact of the matter that Jackson, Mississippi was one of those cities, much like Flint, Michigan, that had outdated water filtration systems that, because of a certain flood that came through there, just pushed it beyond to the point of failure. And of course, the water there in Jackson, Mississippi, as they say it's safe, A lot of residents there will tell you that they still won't drink the water, and I don't blame them for it. The reason why I bring this up is because President Joe Biden has announced an initial $15 million infrastructure into rebuilding Jackson, Mississippi. I'm not saying it's too little, too late, because it definitely does need to be needed. Jackson, Mississippi is one of the most urban populated cities in Mississippi. And I also want to say overly ignored cities in Mississippi, that now that they are going to move forward and basically rebuild it, although the entire bill for the infrastructure system to be rebuilt is somewhere in the neighborhood of $600 million. Again, I have to ask this question. I'm not mad that the president wants to sit there and say, well, we need to get this filtration system, we need to get the water system fixed here in Jackson, Mississippi. They didn't sit there and say because water is a human right, although he really should. Although it really should be understood that water is a human right. We need water to drink. We need water to bathe. We need water to work our sewage systems for waste management, things of that nature. We need water. Without water, the human race isn't going to last very long. But it is amazing to me that I still say this, that even though federal assistance is warranted, what does that say about the local government of Mississippi that Jackson, Mississippi, now what was it? We talked about that in February, March. 3 months later, you're still having the same issues. Residents still have to get bottled water. Residents still don't trust the water coming out of their sinks, but residents are still paying the utility bills. That alone speaks volumes. And the fact that Governor Tate and his people are somehow still not in jail. I cannot figure that out for the life of me. I truly cannot. But again, I digress. But moving right along, guys, we do want to get to presidential candidate news. Before we go to the Republicans, because that field is ever growing, one individual has come forward and said that he will be running as a third-party presidential candidate. And it is shocking to see that Professor Cornel West, a man of 70 years old, renowned activist, former Harvard professor, is now running to be president of the United States.
In these bleak, I have decided to run for truth and justice, which takes the form of running for president of the United States as a candidate for the People's Party. I enter into quest for truth. I enter into quest for justice. And the presidency is just one vehicle to pursue that truth and justice, what I've been trying to do all of my life. I come from a tradition where I care about you. I care about the quality of your life. I care about whether you have access to a job with a living wage, decent housing, women having control over their bodies, health care for all, de-escalating the destruction of the planet, the destruction of American democracy. Democracy creates disruption. It creates an eruption. It creates an interruption. Wide from below, the energies of everyday people is manifest. And I know there are precious people in your life who you care for. That's why it's important for you to be involved, important for you to participate. We're not talking about hating anybody. We're talking about loving. We're talking about affirming. We're talking about empowering those who have been pushed to the margins, because neither political party wants to tell the truth about Wall Street, about Ukraine, about the Pentagon, about big tech. Neo-fascists like Brother Trump or milquetoast neoliberals like Brother Biden. Wow, I'm so happy to make a world-shaking decision. You know what I mean? Well, I know gangsters when I see them. And gangster's not a subjective expression. It's an objective condition. Do we have what it takes? We shall see. But some of us are going to go down fighting, go down swinging with style and a smile, accenting the best in you and trying to tease out the best in me. Let's do it together.
You know, I'm not against this. I really am not. That was, again, Professor Cornel West. His ad, as you can see on Twitter, as he is announcing he is running for the People's Party for the presidential election of 2024. I told y'all 2024 is going to be an interesting ass year because I wondered who was going to be on the other side. Now, with Democrats, I'd be hard pressed to sit there and see, if another Democrat does decide to run against Biden. Biden has already said he is running. He is going to be running for re-election. So I don't see many Democrats that are going to challenge that or bring that up. So, you know, I expect the entire Senate and House to not bring anybody up. I mean, I would love to see Bernie run again, but after how the DNC did Bernie when his run against Clinton, I have very little faith in the Democratic coalition. But Cornel West, and like I said, for a lot of people that don't know, the U.S. does have more political parties than the Democrats and Republicans. They're just not mentioned a lot. I mean, the Green Party is one of them. The People Party is one of them. The Panther Party is another one. I can keep going down the list. There are more other political parties out there. It's just that the donkey and the elephant are the most financed ones out there. So therefore, you're not going to really hear a lot. But with Cornel West joining this, because Cornel West is a very outspoken, very intellectual individual. I definitely like it. I mean, there's some things that he says that I disagree with, but a lot of it I do agree with. But I like the fact that he is running for president. Now, the chances of him winning, I'm gonna be honest. I used to stand and say it was kind of a one and done. This was more like a publicity stunt. He just wants to play the role of disruptor. I can't say that about him because the thing that I'm really looking forward to, is the debates. The debates with the Democrats, because again, Professor Cornel West is a very outspoken individual. Could you imagine him having a debate with President Biden? Now, granted, it is going to be a little bit of a punching bag match because as president, I mean, we saw that with President Obama. You can have the smartest, most intellectual, highly regarded speaker as the president of the United States. But if you have two legalized bodies of bleached white folks, rice cake warriors, pumpkin spice drainers, who want nothing more to not see a black man succeed in the highest seat in the land, again, it's hard as a president. Harder than when you're a president, you're a black man. But imagine if you're the vice president of said, imagine if you were once the vice president of said black man, that you're now the president of today. Although it is a little easier for Biden now, considering the fact that he has a Senate under he actually did have a simple majority. He just didn't have everybody in line because he had a few Republicans like himself on the Democrats' corner. But I digress. Cornel West is actually going to be a nice little change of pace in the presidential election because, like I said, there's nothing wrong with that. But I'll just be curious. Like I said, I look forward to the debates. On the other side, however, the Republican field is ever growing with new candidates. I'm not surprised.
Republican presidential nomination is heating up. North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum is throwing his hat in the ring, focusing on the economy after former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie launched his campaign last night in New Hampshire. Meanwhile, former Vice President Mike Pence released a video announcing his run this morning. And that means he's, of course, taking on his former boss, former President Trump, but he didn't mention Trump by name.
And it'd be easy to stay on the sidelines, but that's not how I was raised. That's why today, before God and my family, I'm announcing I'm running for President of the United States. We're better than this. We can turn this country around, but different times call for different leadership.
Pence is set to kick off his campaign with an event in Iowa later today. ABC's Alex Brochet is there for more. Alex, what can we expect from Pence's campaign event today?
Hi, Diane. Well, so he has an event that kicks off in a little over an hour from now here, but we expect him to make a pitch that was similar to what was released in that video this morning, right? That it is time for the Republican Party to make a change. He's not called out Donald Trump by name, as you mentioned, but still clearly it is a reference to the former president, his former boss. And then also you've seen him kind of double down on some of the attacks that we've seen from Republicans on the Biden administration here. Now, Pence is trying to really appeal to the evangelical base here that's highly influential in Iowa, also touting some of those social hardline policies that resonate here. But again, I think the question for a lot of folks here is, well, does he have the juice to challenge someone like a Donald Trump or a Ron DeSantis head to head?
Now, Pence spent the weekend there in Iowa. So how are voters responding to his message?
Well, Diane, so I got a chance to speak with an influential evangelical leader here. And one of the things he told me that he's looking for in his candidates, and a lot of people are looking for in their candidates, are character and competency. And so from that perspective, for him, Pence checks off both of those boxes. But again, it gets back to whether or not he believes that the former vice president has the juice to take on a Ron DeSantis, to take on a former President Trump. Does he have all those kind of intangibles? Does he pass the field test when it comes to winning this Republican nomination?
Now, it's still a long way to the Iowa caucuses. So how are candidates planning to connect with voters there over the next several months? This is about more than just a weekend.
That's right, Diane. So, I mean, obviously, we had about 8 candidates that came through this past weekend to do some of those retail politics, the shaking hands, the talking to folks, taking pictures. We're going to see more of that from former Vice President Pence today during this event. And I think, for a lot of these candidates, there's an understanding that this is a little bit of a long game heading into the caucus next year. They're going to try to make as many of those connections as possible to win over as many voters as possible.
All right.
Okay, so literally and figuratively, as you can see, more people are now entering the chat. I know I just had to use that. I just had to use that one time. But let's think about this for a second, because I want to bring this. I want to bring that scene back up, because, like I said, the Republican candidate. Now, granted, we only know of 2 people that are running on the other side. Like I said before, we know Biden's running for re-election. We know Professor Cornel West has just announced his candidacy. Well, let's just go back to the Republican field for just 1 second here. Aside from somewhere in the near future going to be in prison Donald Trump, former Governor Chris Christie, current Senator Tim Scott, Nikki Haley, that is not her real name, dictator Governor Ron DeSantis, America's creepiest Christian Mike Pence, Asa Hutchinson, Vivek Ramsey, or Wamsey, I forget. I don't really apologize for mispronouncing your name. You're really a piece of shit. Larry Elder, which again, one of the guys who backed Trump, Steve Laffey, Perry Johnson, and just announced Governor Doug Burcham. Now, as you can literally see, we have a field of 12. And the one thing that they didn't say about all this is that, number one, could any of them beat the former fat calf failure-in-chief, Donald Trump? Because as messed up as it is, he's still leading in a lot of states. The man has a cult following. He really and truly does. And so when you think about that, guys, how do you beat Trump? Because for a lot of people I just mentioned, they all rode the Trump train. They rode the Trump train because they wanted the votes, they wanted the influence, and got the sway. And then once they got what they needed, they dropped Trump like a hot pocket. So now, because the field is growing so large, it just makes you wonder, who do you really go for? Now, I'm not conservative because, number one, I will never understand conservatives. I will never understand how someone can be black and conservative. I'll never understand someone who is black and actually likes conservatives. But that's a whole different story. But here's what the candidates are saying so far. Nikki Haley was asked in a CNN town hall, how do you describe woke, what it means to you? Literally a softball question, because of CNN. Let's just be honest. CNN ain't going to hit hard like they used to. But again, Jake Tapper from CNN asked presidential candidate Nikki Haley, that's not her real name, asked her, what is the definition of woke and what does that mean to you? And her response, not freaking surprised.
We define woke.
There's a lot of things. I mean, you want to start with biological boys playing in girls' sports. That's one thing. The fact that we have gender pronoun classes in the military now. I mean, all of these things that are pushing what a small minority want on the majority of Americans, it's too much. It's too much. I mean, the idea that we have biological boys playing in girls' sports, it is the women's issue of our time.
So let me stop it just right there before it goes to something else. You had a softball of a question. Nikki Haley, that's not her real name, had a softball of an easy question. How would you define woke? Now, I know for a lot of people, they're going to wonder, well, what does woke really mean? Woke just means that you are aware of the afflictions and the situations that people of color and other minorities go through. That is it. Being woke means that you are aware of what people of color and other minorities face in the society that you live in. That the things that happen to them don't happen to you, but you're aware of it, and you're in action as far as being an ally and trying to change the narrative. That's woke. Nothing more, nothing less. That's all it is. Nikki Haley, that's not her real name, decided that, you know what, now is a good time to say, well, being woke means there's a lot of things. Like, I want to start, you might want to start with biological boys playing girls' sports. I swear to Christ, what is it with conservatives being obsessed? Being obsessed. And this is why I say the conservative party needs to get looked at just a little bit more closely. Because look at what she says. You want to start with biological boys playing girls' sports. Talking about transgender athletes. There's only one political party out there that is completely obsessed with transgender athletes, conservatives. Why in the proverbial blue hell are you worried about a trans athlete that has no impact on your life? None. It's like, to me, it's like, I mean, and we're in Pride Month of all things. Happy Pride Month to all the LGBTQ plus community and family. Always an ally here on How the Frack We Got Here. And you can quote me on that. But even, I mean, think about this for a second. Who is it bothering? Because Nikki Haley, that's not her real name, likes to sit there and say, this is the biggest women's issue of our time. I'm not a woman, but the whole thing of Roe versus Wade being struck down, the whole idea that abortion is being banned in a lot of states, mostly in the South, the fact that abortions, that you cannot get an abortion in some states after a few weeks is a problem. The fact that even you can't get abortion pills by mail is a problem. But somehow transgender athleticism is the biggest women's issue of our time. I'm sorry, but I think a large group of women are going to sit there and disagree with you, Nikki Haley. That's not your real name. Because transgender athleticism is not a woman's issue. Because again, it could have easily been solved. You could have sat there and said, well, we should have a league for trans athletes. You can have a league for heterosexual athletes, a league for transgender athletes. Let me tell you what the problem is going to be. You states can control the schools, public schools. You can control public schools and everybody else that you're accredited with. You can't stop colleges. The NCAA is not going to discriminate on transgender athletes. Matter of fact, that's the only reason why I say, well, it's not fair that my child has to play against them. Then bring in intergender sports. If you start intergender sports, you eliminate the whole you eliminate the whole subject. You do. They do it in college all the time. In the murals, boys versus girls are mixed up. They play together. Nobody bats an eye. It's the same. The only difference is they're adults in college. That's the only difference. It's still men and women playing against each other in college. But what are we saying at this point? That Nikki Haley wants to go off a tangent, which is still crazy to me. That she goes, we're pushing, and then she says this, and I quote this: all of these things are pushing what a small minority want on the majority of Americans. It's too much. It's too much. Okay. A small minority wants to push it on a large majority. We can also apply it to Christianity. Indoctrination in schools, yeah, we can apply it to religious schools. But again, they're not ready for that conversation. But that's Nikki Haley. That is not her real name. Which is not her real name. Presidential candidate whose main platform is going to be on transgenders. Hard to see if she's going to swing a lot of pride folks her way of voting, but good luck with that. But that's not the only person that said something stupid. Again, one of the only two black guys in the Republican Party, Tim Scott, went on The View. And again, some folks liked it because Tim Scott is that safe black guy that racist white folks make them feel wholesome about. Because he does this. He does what a lot of conservative fueled idiots do. They always claim that, all black people should stop having this victim mentality, should really just do the work, really get in there, grind, and you'll be able to make it and have your American dream. Tim Scott is one of those. Tim Scott tries to check all the boxes off because he wants to eliminate the bigot's argument against minorities. That's all Tim Scott is. And I will gladly say it to his face, because what you're about to hear for about the next several minutes should be shocking. At the same time, you see that he's playing the game.
A traditional conservative who's been willing to reach across the aisle. Yep. And I think you espouse a hopeful message, which I've missed in our politics for some time. How do you plan to try to reach the near 74 million Americans who supported the former president, many of whom may have been attracted to sort of the brash approach to politics, with your more hopeful, forward-looking message?
I think people are hungry for something hopeful and optimistic. I believe America could do for anyone what she's done for me. Restoring hope, creating opportunities, and defending and protecting the America that we love is such an important combination, especially when I think about restoring hope. I'm a kid that grew up in a single-parent household, mired in poverty. By the time I was in the 4th grade, I went to 4 different elementary schools. As a freshman in high school, I failed 4 subjects. And so I understand and appreciate the importance of hope. One of the ways that we can restore hope in this country is to focus on our education system. We need to have too many kids in poor zip codes trapped in failing schools. I want parents to have a choice so kids have a bigger chance. If we focus on those issues that, heck, 67% of Democrats, 68% of independents, 70% of Republicans, 72% of African Americans, 66% of Hispanics all agree on some form of school choice, because at the end of the day, my mama loves her child more than she does Republicans or Democrats. So the real combination is, can we find a way to make America better by having every child in every zip code have quality education? And frankly, creating opportunities for me, I started off as a small business owner in the late 1990s. It helped me achieve the goals that I had for my life. One of the most important goals of being raised by that single mother was to make sure that she had a chance to get into a garage without having to worry about coming into an apartment where you're looking to your left, you're looking to your right, trying to make sure that you're safe. My goal in life growing up was to make sure that I bought her a house, but more importantly, a garage. And so having the ability to live the American dream and to see these objectives that I set achieved early on in life was what I believe the American dream should be about. Making sure that every single person, based on their character, their grit, and their talent, can rise as high as humanly possible. And I will say that the transformation that I've seen in my life and in South Carolina, it is measurable by the millions of lives that are absolutely different today than it's ever been, particularly as I look back at my grandfather's life.
Senator, I wanted to move to Governor DeSantis announced 2 weeks ago that he's also running in 2024. And right now he's sitting, it's early, but second to the former president. One question I have as someone who's more traditional conservative is what does that say about the kind of extremes some of your party has moved to? Because it doesn't reflect conservatism to me.
Well, I'll just say that as a guy on the campaign trail in Iowa and New Hampshire and South Carolina, the early voting states, what I found to be really refreshing is that the optimistic, positive message has not been shared in so long. We've been embroiled in battles for so long that when people hear the message, as long as it's anchored in conservatism and you have a backbone, people are interested in engaging in the conversation. As opposed to having a message around populism, having a message around principles, is something that's attracting more folks. And the last time I went to Iowa, which was just this past weekend, the size of the crowd has doubled. The enthusiasm's higher than it's been. Every time I go back, it gets better and better. So my hope and my theory is that America has been waiting for someone to show up who's more interested in American progress and the big windshield of the car and less interested in that rearview mirror, except for making sure that we have a compass on where we're going.
Okay.
Senator, I am actually happy that you're here. We have some things in common. You grew up in a single family household, single mother household. I grew up with both of my parents, but raised in the Bronx projects amidst a lot of poverty and violence. And you are the first Black senator elected in the South since the Reconstruction. That would be about, I think, about 114 years. Yet you say that your life disproves leftist lies. And
Yes.
My question to you is, I'm the exception, right? You're the exception. Maybe even Miss Whoopi Goldberg is the exception.
Oh, she's
but
definitely the
but we are not the rule. And so when it comes to racial inequality, it persists in 5 core aspects of life in the U.S. economics, education, healthcare, criminal justice, and housing. At nearly every turn, these achievements were fought, threatened, and erased, most often by white violence. You have indicated that you don't believe in systemic racism. What is your definition of systemic racism?
Let me answer the question that you've answered.
Or does it even exist in your mind?
Let me answer the question this way. One of the things I think about, and one of the reasons why I'm on the show, is because of the comments that were made, frankly, on this show, that the only way for a young African-American kid to be successful in this country is to be the exception and not the rule. That is a dangerous, offensive, disgusting message to send to our young people today, that the only way to succeed is by being the exception. I will tell you that if my life is the exception, I can't imagine.
But it is.
But it's not, actually. It's
been 114 years.
Yeah, so the fact of the matter is we've had an African-American president, African-American vice president. We've had 2 African-Americans to be secretaries of the state. In my home city, the police chief is an African-American who's now running for mayor. The head of the highway patrol for South Carolina is an African-American.
Still
in
exceptions.
In 1975, there was about 15% employment in the African-American community. For the first time in the history of the country, it's under 5%.
40% homelessness.
And 50%
of
African-Americans, 50% of the folks in our community
get 13% of the population.
You had a chance to ask the question. I know that I've watched you on the show that you like people to be deferential and respectful, so I'm going to do the same thing.
That is true.
So here's what I'm going to suggest. I'm going to suggest the fact of the matter is that progress in America is palpable. It can be measured in generations. I look back at the fact that my grandfather, born in 1921 in Sally, South Carolina, when he was on a sidewalk, a white person was coming, he had to step off and not make eye contact. That man believed then, with some doubt now, in the goodness of America, because he believed that having faith in God, faith in himself, and faith in what the future could hold for his kids would unleash opportunities in ways that you cannot imagine. Every kid today can look, just change the stations and see how much progress has been made in this country. ABC, NBC, CBS, ESPN, CNN, Fox News all have African-American and Hispanic hosts. So what I'm suggesting is that yesterday's exception is today's rule. And for us to
so
suggest—
America has met its promise.
No, of course, the concept of America is that we are going to become a more perfect union. That in fact, the challenges that we faced 50 years ago and 60 years ago should not be the same challenges that we face today. And here's the way that you measure that. When my mother was born, about 10% of African Americans got a high school degree, diploma. Today, it's over 90%. When you look at the income, success that we've had—
That's an HBCU stat.
Well, listen, HBCU stat is a good one, because one of the reasons why I took the funding for HBCUs to the highest level in the history of the country and then I help make it permanent is because I believe that education is the closest thing to magic in America. So I'm about making sure that our kids have as many opportunities to succeed as possible. It's one of the reasons why
I need an opportunity to succeed because I have to go to. They're begging. They're big. You're coming.
I'm just getting started.
I know.
I believe all people can see the success that I've had.
You know.
Oh dear God. Okay. Okay. How can we unpack this bullshit? I apologize, but it's bullshit. You know what I can't stand? I'm gonna tell you what I can't stand. I can't stand people like Tim Scott. I can't stand folks who will sit there and spew BS because he's doing. Let me tell you something. What Tim Scott is doing is what all conservatives do. They follow the 3 F's: family, faith, freedom. Every conservative covers all 3 because apparently if you don't cover all 3, you must lose your conservative membership card if you don't put all 3 somewhere in a sentence. Tim Scott has done that multiple times. Oh, well, we grew up dirt poor in South Carolina, and I switched schools so much. I failed the first 4 subjects in high school, and look at me now, a multi-million-dollar senator spewing every lie I can against minorities because the white man pays me. That's all it is. Even his stats don't make any sense. I raised the bar for the highest funding for HBCUs. We've said it here on this podcast. That was the thing that Trump tried to sit there and do. I've done more for black people than any other president. No, it's unfortunately not true. It's unfortunately false. Even the $100 million that you gave to the HBCUs, which still ticks me off to this day, that so many of administrators and heads of HBCUs took a photo with then failure-in-chief President Trump in the hopes of getting $100 million dedicated to HBCUs, money that was never allocated. Never allocated. And now, flash forward almost 6 years later, Tim Scott is making the same bullshit claim. Even more so that I love the fact that, I wanted Whoopi to get him. I did. But thank you, Sonny. Thank you, Sonny. So much, Sonny. Thank you for trying, because here's my thing. These candidates need to be held to a standard. They need to have their feet put to the fire, because the one thing that he loves to there and say is, I am so tired that in this country, for an African-American kid to be successful, he has to be the exception, and he has to be exemplary. He has to be a unicorn. A lot of black people would agree with that statement, myself included. As black people, we were told by our parents, you got to be better than everybody else. When we play sports, you got to be better than everybody else. We're in school, you got to be better. When we want to study, hey man, you got to be better. Whatever we attempt to do at, our parents and people around us and our villages, because we did have the village at one point. We don't got the village now, unfortunately. But when we did have the village, it was always, hey, man. Even the local drug dealer, when you had the village, he even sat there and said, man, don't be around me. Go hit the books. Go stick to school. That's what the drug dealers used to care. When they used to care about kids, like, look, don't be around me. Don't come around me. I ain't going to hook you up. Take your ass on to school. When the drug dealers used to care, that tells you off the bat that at one point, for black people, and still is, we always have to be the exception. Why? Because the opportunities that people, misguided folks like Tim Scott over there, believe that we have, we don't. Why do you think for the longest time, sports and entertainment and the music industry, aside from business ownership, were the only outlets to people of color? Because that's all they saw us as. You saw us as athletes, entertainers, musicians, and successful business owners. If we had a product that everybody wanted. It wasn't up until later that as we started to branch out in areas of education, started to branch out in ways of finance. Because in Tim Scott's world, he's like, well, you got to think how far we've come, because now almost every news station has a Black or Latino anchor. Are you really going to sit there and say because you see a Black person on television that racism's over now? Because that's the same bullshit that they tried to pull when President Obama got elected. Oh, well, we got a Black president now, so that means he's no longer racist. You barely didn't vote for him. Some and I know, look, it took more than us to get him in. It took more than Black people to get President Obama voted in, twice, actually. But it amazes me that Tim Scott wants to look at systemic. He doesn't believe in systemic racism. He doesn't believe in systemic racism. He believes in the fact that, hey, you're just not working hard enough. Where have you heard that? As a Black person, where have you heard that? Oh, he just ain't working hard enough. He's not showing he can pull his full weight. He's not showing ambition. He's not showing drive. He's not showing the things that we need him to conform to, because that's what they do. And Tim Scott up there is trying to be this. And I sit there and said, I almost had to sit there and say, well, damn, Tim Scott, are you going to take Barack Obama's speech too while you're at it? We haven't had hope in a while. You didn't have hope. You didn't like the messenger. That's all it is. And now the Republicans are going to sit there and go with Tim Scott and be, well, they're not even going to go with Tim Scott. Because Tim Scott, I'm going to be honest with you, not to go off on a tangent. You are a Black man running against a party that does not want or do anything with you, that literally every policy they're putting forward goes against minorities. And do you think being a Black man running for the GOP nomination is going to get you votes? Well, I've got some beachfront property in Ohio I want to sell you, Tim Scott, because good luck with that bullshit. Like I said, the Republican financial field, guys, is 12 strong versus a possible Cornel West and President Biden debate. And I'm going to be honest with you, a debate amongst the Republican GOP party versus a debate between Cornel West and Biden, I think I'll take Biden and Cornel West. That's just me. But moving right along, guys, we're going to get some news because Florida, the king of the Hold My Beer title, unfortunately had another stand your ground death because a woman decided it was easier for her to shoot somebody unseen through a door.
Of 4 shot and killed through the door of a neighbor's home as her 9-year-old son stood right beside her. Authorities believe that neighbor with the gun had reportedly targeted the woman's young children while they were playing outside. Tonight, the community is demanding the woman with the gun be arrested, but the sheriff on why he says he can't move forward, at least for now. Victor Akendo in Florida.
Tonight, authorities investigating the killing of a Florida mother of 4 after police say she was shot through a door by her neighbor. According to police, on Friday evening, a group of children had been playing in a field next to that neighbor's home. One of the children forgetting their iPad, and when they went back to retrieve it, that neighbor allegedly threw a pair of skates. The children's mother, Ajika A.J. Owens, then going to the neighbor's home, but she was shot through the door as she knocked.
My daughter, my grandchildren's mother, was shot and killed with her 9-year-old son standing next to her. She had no weapon.
The 35-year-old pronounced dead at the hospital. The suspect, a 58-year-old white woman, not yet named by police, was taken into custody and released. According to the sheriff, there was an ongoing feud between the neighbors. In February, police reports state the 58-year-old neighbor called police, alleging Owens picked up a no trespassing sign and threw it at her as she walked her dog on Owens' property.
And authorities say they must now determine if the state's stand your ground law applies here, which depends heavily on a presumption of fear. But there are questions about how this neighbor could have been fearful if she allegedly shot through her front door. David?
Victory.
Which is true. Because again, guys, this is the So this is the messed up part about the stand your ground law. Again, the reason why it sounds familiar is in the case of Trayvon Martin because of Mr. Zimmerman decided that he was going to stay in Grand Law to use that in fear for his life and murder a teen. Now, even in Florida, the same woman, who, by the way, they did announce her name eventually, Suzanne Louise Lawrence, did decide that she was going to say she was in fear for her life, even though she harassed. Keep in mind, this is the same woman that harassed a group of children, allegedly. Now, we got to say allegedly, unfortunately. Allegedly harassed a group of children when they came back for an iPad, smashed the iPad. They went back and got the mom. The mom knocked on the door, and she shot through the door with her child right next to her. That's traumatic because now she murdered a mother. And the real messed up part about this, not because the fact the next video I'm about to show where this woman has a history of harassment, but the sheriff's lack of action. Because keep in mind, the murder occurred. Up until 48 hours later did the woman finally get arrested. 48 hours later. 48 hours, she was able to stay at her home, sleep in her bed, not be accosted. Up until 48 hours had passed, and she got arrested. Who is the system protecting here? Who is the sheriff protecting here? Because it seems cut and dry. Because if I, myself as a gun owner, decided to shoot through my door at another individual for no other reason aside from the fact that I thought I could get away with it, I would be in jail by the time, you know what? I would be in jail by the time you order from Domino's. For whatever pizza place is around you, I'm in jail before that pizza is done. Because I know how swift it is. Because they have suggestions for them and rules for us. And the sheriff says, well, we don't really have the full story. As a firearms owner, if I discharge my firearm, whether it be to protect myself or others, that's pretty cut and dry. I mean, I don't understand when the sheriff goes, well, there's other sides to the story. Woman shoots through the door that she can't see at an individual she can't see. What more do you need to know of what happened? It just goes to show you that they were intending on protecting the murderer. Even more so. I'll bet my paycheck right now that woman has a GoFundMe and legal defense. I guarantee she's under extreme protection. Although I can't imagine anybody coming after her, which I find would be ironic. I find it that in her cowardice, she needs protection from those who may or may not want to do said thing that she did to said black woman. I find that ironic that we have to protect the murderer, but the murderer for 48 hours remains free. Even more so that this woman has a history.
From the basketball hoops to the bikes left roadside, no doubt this neighborhood tells the story of a place where kids spend a lot of time outside. Today, the streets are quiet after days of tension.
She took someone's kid's mom away. She didn't just kill someone. She killed someone's mom.
Megan Stevens is talking about her neighbor from across the street, Susan Lawrence, who's now charged with shooting her neighbor from next door, Ajika Owens, or AJ for short. Parents here say all the kids play outside together, many of them black or mixed. They say Lawrence would often call them slurs before things escalated.
Calling them the N-word, hard R, whatever, stuff that.
This memorial right here is the result of what happened in this field. Now, people in this neighborhood say this field is where kids like to play. You can see why, because it has so much space, and this is where all the children in the area would come and play. Now, they say that Lawrence really had an issue with kids playing near her home. It eventually escalated, and Owens came over from her house across the street to confront Lawrence, and that's when deputies say she shot through her front door, killing Owens.
And I heard a bang on my door so loud that my windows were shaking. And I came outside, and her son was literally gasping for air, telling me that his mother had been shot by the lady across the street.
You said you knew who that was.
I knew who it was immediately.
Phyllis Willis says these moments were heart-wrenching, seeing her friend and neighbor dead across the street. Her message to the woman accused of shooting AJ was simple.
I hope she rots in hell.
in Marion County. Tony Atkins.
Yep, I can't blame her for that sentiment, because what other reason is there? Because again, this woman, and for all those that need to see a picture, I'll help you out, because this woman right here, I'm sorry, my bad. This woman right here, that's the woman that just got arrested. But look, I guarantee she wasn't walked through the front door. She was walked through a side entrance. And at the same time, for someone that's looking down, and more than likely their life is forever altered, she looks like she has no remorse. And again, the fact that what she's being charged with: manslaughter with a firearm, culpable negligence, battery, and 2 counts of assault. She murdered somebody. And if I'm the DA, it shouldn't be that hard to try for murder, because that's what it was. The mom died from fatal shooting. At this point, it's murder. And yet, all I see is manslaughter with a firearm. But again, I agree with the sentiment of that next door neighbor. I hope she rots in hell. But from a journalistic standpoint, we will follow that story, because the case and the trial is going to come up, and it might be open and shut. But we will see. Moving right along to Atlanta, guys. There is a facility that is being built that is supposed to train law enforcement, first responders, and fire departments. However, the funding was questionable, considering the fact that Atlanta did not have the funding, but yet are still moving forward with the development of those who have detailed it, called Cop City.
More than 14 hours of public comments on funding for the proposed Public Safety Training Center for Police, Fire, and EMS was contentious. After hearing from the public, one council member made up her mind on the $67 million project with $31 million in direct funding.
I'm even more confident in my no vote today.
Other council members plan to vote yes for the Public Training Center.
My position has not changed, so I'm sensitive to what I'm hearing today. We're obligated to do something. So even though this is an extreme show of opposition, our obligation still remains.
We should clarify that before voting it through to win back some of the community trust. Because asking them to trust us to do the right thing for those who are against us is a big ask when they don't feel heard.
And it's true that the fact that this is a terrible idea, because for a lot of people that think that, and I hate to say this, a lot of people truly think that law enforcement doesn't get funded. They are fully funded. Why? Not too long ago, Biden pushed forward with a new bill that pretty much pushed funding to every law enforcement agency and division in the United States. Because keep in mind, everybody kept saying when Joe Biden was going to come back that he was going to maybe bring a redux of the infamous crime bill that was signed into law that he was an architect on, that was signed in under Bill Clinton, that where 100,000 other officers were hired. The 3-strike law was put into place. At the same time, it was supposed to curb crime at the time of the Clinton administration. Everybody thought the same thing was going to happen again. And in a sense, it kind of did. That Biden decided to give a nice little substantial amount to law enforcement to train, to hire, to equip divisions across the United States. So that being said, I have always said the very few departments that ever have funding issues is law enforcement. And the fact that the reason why this so-called Cop City is being protested is because the council members basically voted with next to nothing in information. Hence why some council members abstained from voting, but unfortunately, it wasn't enough to overrule the majority as they are moving forward on trying to get this building established. Again, funding has never been a problem for law enforcement. At the same time, they're given more money, almost like the Department of Defense. But I digress. But being that it's Pride Month, guys, you would think we would be able to celebrate our LGBTQ plus brothers and sisters. We should be able to celebrate them celebrate them, the culture, the history, the struggles, the fights, the achievements. We should be able to celebrate all these things in this wonderful month. You would like to think so, but unfortunately, people just can't see. When it comes to protesting, folks don't understand that, hey, if you don't like something, you don't have to be there. But like most idiots, they got to protest and then fight about it.
Fighting broke out last night between pro and anti-LGBTQ demonstrators outside a school board meeting in Glendale, California. The board was scheduled to vote on recognizing June as Pride Month. 3 people were arrested. Protesters last week clashed at a school in Hollywood over a Pride-themed assembly.
Time now for a look at your Wednesday weather.
So yes, a Pride assembly, because a school was going to vote on that. A school was going to vote on recognizing Pride Month at a school. People kill me because, you know what, just like Nikki Haley, that's not her real name, sat there and said, well, how do I explain? She sat there and said, when it comes to those people, how do I explain to my child about transgenders? Very easy. Treat them the way you want to be treated. It's not just a golden rule with Christianity. It's just basic fracking human decency. As humans, we should be able to treat each other with respect and with kindness. I am not saying you have to hold hands and sing Kumbaya around the campfire, but at least can we just be decent? If you don't like the way somebody lives, that's not your life. If you don't like the decisions that they made, who they with, or how they decide to identify themselves, again, what effect does it have on your life? Because I'm going to be honest, I think that some people are just too freaking knows for their own good. Like, I truly believe that every GOP that's against transgenders is slightly a closet. You're a closet person. Because that's the way it used to be in here. I mean, historically, every GOP that voted against LGBTQ+, come to find out that you guys like staying on certain sites, like being seen with certain people whose rights you're voting against. Tale as old as time that you guys always get caught by them. But again, treat people the way you want to be treated. And again, there's nothing in it. How would I explain it to my child? Very easy. If they're LGBTQ+, respect them. Respect them, but still treat them with kindness or leave them be. It is not your job to judge them, confront them, or try to convert them. It's not your job. But I'll tell you what gets you real far in life. If you simply treat people with kindness and respect and decency, you won't even see the fact of their preferences. If you understand that this is the way they live their life and you're not trying to change it, you won't see the fact that LGBTQ+. You'll see the fact that they are just a human being wanting to be loved and respected and treated with kindness, because deep down, you're the same freaking way. That's how I explain it to my kids. Because I don't get the whole thing. Like I said, I don't get this whole thing of fear. Because that's what it comes down to. People always fear what is different. What is always different from them? People fear it. Why? I have no freaking idea. I've never understood it. I've never, in my 40 years on this earth, never been afraid of somebody different than me. I have learned because to me, it's learning opportunity. Tell me about yourself. Tell me about what's your culture. Tell me about this, because I was luckily diverted to learning cultural sensitivity, which means that I am aware and wanting to learn about cultures different than my own. Why? Because not only do I want to increase my knowledge of the world, I want to make sure that I'm always respecting people, learning from them, and hopefully they learn from me. And we all grow together as human beings. Again, I'm not saying you got to hold hands around the campfire and sing Kumbaya, but you can learn to be decent. You can learn to be respectful. You can learn to let people, I always say let people, you can learn to mind the business that pays you. Thank you, Candy B. I'm using that. You can learn to mind the business that pays you. That's what that is. And it should be. Because the simple fact of the matter is, folks that are that damn nosy are probably cheering for this type of thing, which again is the reason why I sit there and say the GOP's war is not on transgender. The GOP's war, the true war, is on two fronts. One is, well, actually three fronts. One, the war on women. Two, the war on the LGBTQ plus people. And number three, the war on education. Don't believe me? There is a school in Oklahoma right now that just approved funding for the first public religious school. I wish I could make this up.
3-2 vote. The Oklahoma statewide virtual charter school board voted to approve the nation's first religious charter school funded by public tax dollars. This vote has put Oklahoma in a spotlight no other state in the nation has been in before.
Mr. Bobek?
Yes.
Mr. Pearson?
No.
The separation of church and state blurred in Oklahoma.
This pathway of teaching religion in a public school does, I think, put the first step in motion for the dam to be broken of separation of church and state.
The application comes from the Catholic Archdiocese of Oklahoma City and the Diocese of Tulsa to create St. Isidore of Seville Virtual Catholic Charter School. A weighty decision Oklahoma Attorney General Gettner Drummond says is unconstitutional, calling the move disappointing by board members who violated their oath to follow state law.
The question was, did we stay in accordance with the oath that we had signed, which was to follow the Constitution? And the answer was, for me, it was a no. It was an absolute no. It doesn't align with the state constitution, and so we knew this was going to go to court.
President of the board was one of two who voted against the proposal.
This has nothing to do with that belief about our friends and loved ones that are of Catholic faith. This has everything to do with the design, the platform that did not align well, did not serve special education students effectively, and potentially allowed for some discrimination to be in place that didn't align with their core values. They wanted to push the matter to the Supreme Court so that they could find this test case for the national scale to unfold.
Governor Kevin Stitt and State Superintendent Ryan Walters among the Oklahomans who stand with this decision. Governor Stitt calling the move a win for religious liberty and education freedom for Oklahoma. Walters says this further empowers parents, allowing every Oklahoma parent to decide what's best for their child.
Okay, so again, things I cannot make up. Because again, the GOP is fighting a war on three fronts. They're fighting a war on women, LGBTQ+, and education. Three wars that they're fighting. And I say education because if you're like me, you're from Tennessee, I'm from Tennessee or anywhere in the South, anywhere there's a GOP supermajority, they are slowly destabilizing education. They've been doing so for years. Why? Because education gets public funding. Education gets public funding. That's the truth. So, Republicans, like most things, want to destroy something to the point to where they can privatize it. If they can privatize it, that means they get the funding for it. And how they do that? With Republicans, it was called school choice. It got introduced here in Middle Tennessee as well as in various schools, various GOP-controlled states. Because GOP sat there and told parents, hey, whatever school you want to send your child to, you can send them. Take this school voucher. Now, what they didn't tell parents was to fund these said school vouchers, because these schools who are seeing influx students are going, hey, we need help or funding because we're about to get overcrowded and we're going to need a lot more money for the influx. Republicans said, no problem. We'll take from the public school, we'll take away the funding for public schools and funnel that into school vouchers. Public schools said, no, public government funding is for public schools. If they want to go to a private school or a religious private school or a charter school, then they have to pay. You're not going to take away from our funds for your stupid little idea, because what you're basically doing is privatizing education. That's pretty much an oversimplification of what's going on right now. Because if you haven't noticed, aside from graduation rates, grades across the country are falling. Less kids are graduating. More kids are in summer school than at any point before the pandemic. And they try to blame everybody. Oh, we'll blame remote or virtual learning. We'll blame the teachers. But what we're not saying is the fact that we should be looking at the fact, why has education not had a massive overhaul? With all the technology that we have at our disposal, we should be funding education the same way we fund our national defense. If you do that, you have less wars with smarter people. The point I'm making is just that Republicans in theater of war number 3 have sat there and said, we'll just keep taking away from education. We'll keep slashing the budget. We're hoping that teachers will either quit or find some other place that's more lucrative. If we can destabilize public education just enough, we can convince those that our idea is way better. Hence why now in Oklahoma has the nation's first publicly funded religious charter school. It's an oxymoron because it doesn't even sound right. But the same way, that, my friends, when it comes to religious schools, is the true indoctrination. But you'll never hear a GOP conservative or a possible presidential Republican candidate sit there and say that a religious school is terrible, because that goes against their voter base. Faith, family, freedom. The holy trinity of bullshit. That being said, guys, we're going to move on to our feel-good segment, because usually how the fact we got here, we usually cover a lot of things that are doom and gloom, sometimes making use of faith and humanity. But hey, it's Wednesday, it's hump day. Hopefully to get to Thursday, which is our Friday Eve, and we want to leave you guys out with some good vibrations. And hopefully this story about a young man who decided to not let an ailment get him down was still able to do some remarkable things.
He received a terrifying diagnosis as a child, and while it initially slowed him down, he did not let it stop him.
Gianni Quintero is a typical teen in many ways but one.
I wasn't born like this. I have paralysis in the left leg.
Gianni has a condition called transverse myelitis from a virus he contracted when he was just 6. His mom, Tila, still gets emotional when she talks about that dark time.
I wanted to take his pain away so bad. But even when he was diagnosed and they said that he'd never walk unassisted again, he was just like, I'll be fine, Mom. We're going to get through this.
That determination kept Gianni focused on his plan to never give up sports.
My parents found basketball first, and we're off.
Then last year, for the first time, the 15-year-old tried wheelchair track and field.
Let's go, Gianni! All right, Gianni! So far, I think I've broken the 100, 400, and 800 record at my school that the other wheelchair racer had.
His teammates at Marquette University High School say Gianni contributes something special to the team.
I would choose like 20 Giannis if I had the opportunity.
And yesterday, when he competed in the Wisconsin State Track and Field Championship in a field of a dozen other wheelchair sprinters,
Go G!
In both the 400 and 800 meter races, he finished first, a special achievement celebrated by his entire team.
I get to participate in a sport for high school, and I don't just get to sit around and really do nothing.
Go, Gianni.
All I can sit there and say is, man, this man is doing things. And I like seeing stories like that because, number one, it's inspiring. Number two, really makes me wonder what I should be doing with my life. But that being said, guys, that's going to do it for this podcast. I do thank you all for liking, for watching, for letting people know it's live. I certainly appreciate that. Some shameless plugging before I do get out of here. Shout out to my boy Vaughn at BigBZA on all social media. Check out his YouTube channel to where you will be able to see or hear all of his music content. The man is gifted at making beats, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just trying to put y'all on something. But definitely check him out, BigBZA on all social media. As for me, guys, you can find me BlackFox447 on all socials. I usually do reviews on everything that I read, that I watch and play and gym stuff. I do a couple push-ups. Also, the link at the bottom of the show, guys, let me make that just a wee bit bigger for you guys to see. If you copy and paste that link into your browser, will take you to my link tree that has the YouTube and Facebook groups for all of my podcasts. How the Frack We Got Here, Get Bit, and the Off-Limits podcast. Like, share, subscribe. Let people know about this, as I like to grow these channels to where they can be bigger audience, things of that nature, because I would like to make this my full-time job one day. Also win the lottery, but let's see what happens first. I know that's pretty bad, ain't it? But aside from that, guys, my podcast, How the Frack We Got Here, can be heard on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, by Anchor, and hopefully very soon being seen on Always Press Record TV. I cannot wait for those things to come across. Just have to get some things in order because, like I said, I'm trying to grow it. I'm trying to be like, how can I put this? That's going to be bad. I was going to say woke Don Lemon. Well, yeah, we woke Don Lemon because woke Don Lemon wasn't that bad. He'll pop up somewhere. We know that for sure. But with that being said, guys, let's wrap this up. I say this because it needs to be more of this needs to happen. We do need to be more about celebrating the wins with each other, even if it's not your win. Promoting each other, putting people up. If you have a business, let people know about it. It takes literally zero energy to do all these things. It takes 100% energy to be a dick. So my rule is in life, as well as speaking to me on social media, don't be a dick. We'll all be cool. That being said, guys, last thing I'll say about How the Frack We Got Here, it's not about trying to reinvent the wheel. We are simply giving you all the information, allowing you to make up your own mind. But we do provide a logical perspective that goes along with it. We do better as a society once we're informed. We're progressive. We move forward. We try to right the wrongs of our past and making decisions now that we should have done back then. Like electing our first Black woman Supreme Court, electing our first Black woman the Federal Board of Governors, electing our first Black woman as the National Cybersecurity Director of the United States, electing multiple 4-star and 3-star military generals who are Black. All will earn and should be respected and given their flowers. When we don't learn from history, we are doomed to respect. We are pretty much doomed to repeat it. That's why we keep asking ourselves, why does everything go by our paycheck? Why are there different politicians, but still the same old game in Congress? And most importantly, how the Frack We Got Here. As always, guys, take care of yourselves and each other, and we will all get through this. Peace.